Chapter 27. Strong hands wrapped around Pong's shoulders and shoved him through the back door of the mud house. He tried to wriggle free, but the big man behind him gripped him tight. "Somkit!" cried Pong, turning to look for his friend in the dark hallway. "Shut up," said the big man, squeezing Pong's arms. "Hands off him, Yai," said Somkit. "He's my friend." Confused, Pong twisted around and tried to get his bearings. Chapter 27. Strong hands wrapped around Pong's shoulders and shoved him through the back door of the mud house. He tried to wiggle free. Chapter 27. Strong hands wrapped around Pong's shoulders and shoved him through the back door of the mud house. He tried to wriggle free, but the big man behind him gripped him tight. "Somkit!" cried Pong, turning to look for his friend in the dark hallway. "Shut up," said the big man, squeezing Pong's arms. "Hands off him, Yai," said Somkit. "He's my friend." Confused, Pong twisted around and tried to get his bearings. A short man with a crooked nose sneered at Somkit. "Since when are you friends with the Junior Patrol?" Somkit returned the short guy's glare. "Since when do you care who I'm friends with, Yord?" "Everyone be quiet," snapped a woman's voice. Pong heard the clink of an orb switching on, followed by its distinctive buzz. Violet light seeped from an orb lantern and illuminated a long, narrow face with lively eyes. The woman wore a man's jacket with the collar popped up. She inspected Pong from under heavy bangs that hung down past her eyebrows. "Somkit, your little friend here looks like he's about to throw up." To Pong's surprise, Somkit rushed at the woman and threw his arms around her. "Umpai, finally! Your trip lasted so long, I thought you were never coming back." "Hey, no hugs for the rest of us?" asked the little guy with the broken nose. His big friend snorted. "I need to talk to you," Somkit said to Umpai. He scowled at the two men. "Alone, please." "In a minute," said Umpai, without taking her gaze from Pong. "We have supplies and money we need to hand out first." Umpai sent the big man, Yai, back into the alley to retrieve their rucksacks. As soon as they entered the main room of the mud house, Umpai was swarmed by people. The rucksacks held food and medicine, which Yai and Yord doled out. But most of the commotion focused on welcoming Umpai home. The people swirled around her, thanking her again and again for the supplies. She called everyone by name and asked about their families. She reminded Pong a little of Father Chem, making time to speak with everyone, even the children. After a while, she caught Yai's eye and gave him a short nod. All right, boomed Yai, forming a one-man wall in front of her. "You said you were going to cook up a feast, didn't you? So go get cooking. Umpai's got a lot to catch up on from being gone so long." She slipped away up the stairs and motioned for Somkit and Pong to follow. Yai and Yord clomped up after them. On the second floor, they followed Umpai into one of the few rooms in the mud house that still had a full set of walls and a door, which Yai shut behind them. The room was an office of sorts, with a large desk in the center and shelves along the edges crammed with supplies: toilet paper, bandages, shrimp paste, coconut milk, coils of rope and pulleys, and 100 other random items. Umpai sat on the edge of the desk with one leg folded underneath her. "Set those medical supplies over there with the rest," she said to Yai. "Then you two should go back downstairs and see that the food gets doled out evenly. Keep an eye on that new cook and make sure he doesn't skimp on filling the bowls." "Right, Auntie," said Yai with a short nod. As he and Yord started out the door, Umpai cleared her throat and asked, "Aren't you forgetting something?" Yord turned around and gave her an oily, gap-toothed smile. "What do you mean?" Umpai held out her hand, palm open. "The wad of bills that's in your pocket. It stays here." Yai rocked nervously on his feet, but Yord stretched his smile even wider. "Oh, that. I was thinking since me and Yai took such a risk to get all this loot, we should get to keep a little something for ourselves, like a finder's fee." Umpai glared at the two men. "Everyone here takes risks," she snapped. "Not just you. You know my rules. That money we collected isn't for us." Yord's smile thinned as he reached into his shirt pocket, pulled out the stack of money, and placed it in Umpai's hand. He held the smile as he and Yai slunk out the door and shut it behind them. Samkit stood leaning against the desk next to Umpai with his arms crossed. "Those guys," he said with disgust. "I wish you'd just left them behind." Umpai shrugged. "They come in handy sometimes. Yord's a little slimy, but that helps if you have to deal with slimy people. And it's always a good idea to have Yai's muscles standing behind you, especially the places I've been going." Umpai rubbed her palm over her face and down the side of her neck. Because she was small and had a girlish haircut, Pong had thought she wasn't much older than a teenager. But here, with a violet orb hanging directly overhead, he saw the dark circles and age lines framing her eyes. Umpai reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a tangerine. As she peeled it, she looked at Pong from beneath the bangs that hung over her eyelashes. "You still haven't introduced me to your friend, little brother," she said to Samkit. Pong blushed as he bowed to her. "My name is Pong." Umpai nodded and popped a segment of tangerine in her mouth, offering one to Samkit, too. "Pong, that's the name for a protector. You protect my little brother here?" Pong looked at Samkit, who beamed every time Umpai called him little brother. "So far, he's the one who's been protecting me," Pong answered. Samkit took a deep breath and twisted his mouth from side to side. "We were at Namwan together, but Pong left before me and—" "He left?" Samkit swallowed and nodded at Pong. "Go on, show her." Pong reflexively clamped his left arm down at his side. "It's okay," said Samkit. "You can trust her." Strangely, Pong did trust her. He raised his left arm and gently hooked a finger under the string bracelets. They were fraying and thin now. A couple had already snapped off. Pong felt a stab of sadness for Father Cham. He'd be getting no more new bracelets now, no more kind words of wisdom. He held out his wrist to Umpai and stepped toward her. She took his hand in her slender fingers. Up close, she smelled like oranges and boat varnish. Umpai stared down at his wrist, but she seemed more interested in the bracelets than his tattoo. "Where did you get all these?" Pong reached up and pulled off his cap, exposing his fuzzy scalp. Umpai dropped his hand and crossed her arms. "Word on the street is that the police are looking for a monk who ran away from Tanaburi. I don't guess that has anything to do with you guys?" "It's a very long story," said Samkit. Umpai slid off the desk, went to the door, checking that it was shut. She whirled around, scowling. "You brought a fugitive to our house?" she said sternly. "Do you know what could happen to all of us if the police discovered that you've been hiding him here?" "What could I do?" said Samkit. "Just leave him on the streets? He's my best friend. You would have done the same thing." "Not if it meant endangering everyone in this house." "Everyone, Samkit. Think of all the kids. Where would they go? What would happen to them if we got arrested?" "I know, but he doesn't have anywhere else to go. We were waiting for you to get back. I promised him that you'd help him get on a boat going south. That's his only chance. He's got to get out of Chitana." Pong clamped down on the guilty feeling rising in his stomach. "It's not Samkit's fault. It's mine. I didn't give him any choice, and we've been really careful not to get in trouble." "Oh, really?" said Umpai. "Is that why you were out in the city with that stupid disguise? Because you were being careful?" "Umpai, please," said Samkit. "I know it was risky, but we had to go out to get these." He held up the bundle of copper wire and stack of tin. "I haven't told you this yet, but I got it to work." Umpai's anger melted away. "The sun orbs?" Samkit smiled bashfully and nodded. "Just after you left." "And it really works? You caught light from the sun?" "Not just that," said Samkit, pausing for effect. "Gold light." "Ha ha!" cried Umpai, throwing her arms around Samkit and spinning him around. "I knew you could do it, and just in time for next Sunday, too." What's on Sunday? Asked Pong. Samkit looked at Umpai and raised both hands innocently. I didn't tell him anything about it yet, but you should. He told you his secret. Umpai nodded. Fair enough. She checked the door to her office once more, then leaned against it with her arms folded. We're planning a march across the Giant's Bridge. It's why I've been gone. I've been gathering more people to join us. She smiled at Samkit. I've got them, too. At least 1,000. And I bet I can get 1,000 more if what you tell me about your sun orbs is true. Pong stared at her. A march? Like a parade? Samkit snickered. Like a protest. But what are you protesting? A week from Monday, the governor will sign a new law, said Umpai. It will raise the price of orbs by 10%, every color. Pong thought about the poor people he'd seen agonizing over buying violet orbs at the light market. If the orbs were 10% more expensive, they would be out of their reach. But it's not just that he's raising the orb prices, added Samkit. It's the reason he's raising them. He's going to spend that money on a huge new building project, a youth reform center. It's a jail, said Umpai, for children. Pong winced as if someone had punched him in the chest. A children's jail. Just thinking the words made him feel sick. Samkit looked at him sorrowfully. Namwan's full, he explained. There's no room for the prisoners' children anymore, and there are whole packs of kids who run the alleys. They don't have any homes or families to take care of them. They'll probably end up in the reform center, too. The governor says it's for their safety. Pong stared down at the floor. Desperate people deserve our compassion. Father Chem had gathered up children, blessed them, and found them families. But here, the governor was going to catch them like dogs and stick them in a pen. It's monstrous, Umpai hissed, pacing in front of the door. A jail? We don't need another jail. We need schools, decent ones, and hospitals like they have on the west side. The people won't stand for it either. They've put up with things this long because they're afraid of the governor. It's not just because he controls the police. They're afraid he'll take away what little they have. They don't want to lose his light. She stopped pacing and turned to Samkit. But now they have nothing to be afraid of. If we can show up on that bridge carrying our own orbs, it will show everyone, on both sides of the river, that we don't need the governor or anything he has to offer. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a tiny notebook. I've got almost 1,000 commitments for the march next Sunday, she repeated, tapping the cover. I know you can't make that many orbs in such a short time, but what could you do? 100? 200? Samkit's proud smile drooped. At this rate, 5? I can't overcharge an orb or it'll shatter. I have to use ones that are already faded, but it's going to take too long to wait for our mud house orbs to fade out. We lose only 1 or 2 a day at most. Isn't there anywhere else to get faded orbs? Asked Pong. What if you offered people money to buy theirs? Umpai considered this for a moment, then shook her head. The money we have saved up is for food and medicine. Besides, I don't want word to get out about what Samkit can do. The governor has spies everywhere, and if he hears that we're looking for faded orbs, he might figure out what we're up to. Then he'll find us and shut us down for sure. If we're going to do this, we need to keep it a secret until the last minute. What about taking faded orbs from a recycling depot? Asked Samkit. No, said Umpai firmly. No stealing. We have to do this honestly. Otherwise, we'll prove we're just as terrible as the governor says we are. Pong listened to Samkit and Umpai run through one bad option after another. There was just no easy way to get the number of faded orbs they needed in time. Samkit's face sagged, his hopes crushed. Pong had never seen his friend so disappointed. I think I've got an idea, said Pong suddenly. The others stopped talking and swiveled their faces toward him. Go on, said Umpai. What if we went through the city and found violet orbs that were just about to fade, and we swiped them before the owners found out? That's stealing, said Umpai. and we replaced them with good orbs from the mud house without them noticing. That's swapping, said Somkit. We could get the faded orbs we need, continued Pong, and people in the city would get fully charged orbs that will last longer. Everyone wins, and no one needs to find out about it. Totally brilliant, said Somkit, beaming. There's just one problem, said Umpai. No one knows exactly when orbs will fade. If you know how old they are, you can guess about how long they'll last, but when they actually go out, poof, they just go. I can tell, said Pong. When the other two looked surprised, he added, Orbs make a different sound when they're close to going out, and they flicker very faintly. I saw it happen tonight at the light market. Umpai raised one eyebrow, skeptical. I've never noticed that before. Somkit, have you? Somkit shook his head, bewildered. No, but Pong sees things that other people miss. You should have seen him with those mangoes when we were little. If he says it happens, I believe him. Umpai chewed on her thumbnail as she paced in front of her desk. If we could have 100 orbs, 100 gold orbs for the march, she jerked her head up to Somkit. Can you even imagine the scene? To have the people of Chitana holding their own light? What a statement that would make. Somkit's face mirrored her excitement. Once I get the orbs, I can start charging them right away. As long as we keep them turned off, they'll last until the march, and then... His eyes landed on Pong, and he stopped. Wait, what about Pong? What about his boat? Umpai turned to Pong. She looked at him a long time, trying to read his face. Her eyes traveled down to his bracelet-covered wrist. What do you say? Do you want to stay and help us? I think... Because if you stay, you're taking a risk. I will protect you as much as I can, but I can't promise for sure that you won't get caught. Pong swallowed hard. What I can promise, she went on, is that if you help us, I will get you on the fastest boat to the sea when this is all over. If we pull this off, you'll be free. You have my word. Pong looked from Umpai to Somkit. Once again, he found himself pulled like the tide, torn between leaving and staying. The new prison sounded horrible, but Pong couldn't believe that one march would stop it from being built. The governor would do what he wanted, just like he always had. The world is full of darkness, and that will never change. But he couldn't get over the look of hope on Somkit's face. He owed his friend for saving his life, for living out those years at Namwan alone. He'd left him once. He couldn't leave him again, not right now. What was one more week when he'd waited 4 years? Pong nodded at Umpai. All right, I'll do it. She nodded back. Get ready. We'll start tonight.